So the president of the United States, Donald John Trump, went to Davos and everything's now totally fine. Hold on, wait, what? Wait, this just in? Well, it's not just fine. Europe's lost its mind. Well, so it's still the status quo. I'm Tony Katz. The show is Tony Katz Today. The radio show is about to join us. Let's do this up, shall we?
Foothold in our hemisphere. So we did it for ourselves also. And then after the war, which we won it big. Without us, right now, you'd all be speaking German and a little Japanese, perhaps.
Holy crap. The man took 0 prisoners in Davos. It was, excuse me, while I whip this out. We're the United States. You're not. We're not going to do anything militarily about Greenland. But how about that Greenland, huh? Huh? It was unbelievable. It was unbelievable. And of course, it has European nations upset. But European nations are always upset. There is very little one can do about this. European nations being angry is kind of what they do. But what Mark Carney is doing as the Prime Minister of Canada, well, this just defies all logic and reason. We have to change the whole new world order. Wait, I thought there wasn't a new world order. You shut up, Tony. Of course there's a new world order. And Canada's at the tippy medium of it.
Friends, it is time for companies and countries to take their signs down. For decades, countries like Canada prospered under what we called the rules-based international order. We joined its institutions, we praised its principles, we benefited from its predictability. And because of that, we could pursue values-based foreign policies under its protection. We knew the story of the international rules-based order was partially false, that the strongest would exempt themselves when convenient, that trade rules were enforced asymmetrically. And we knew that international law applied with varying rigor depending on the identity of the accused or the victim. This fiction was useful. And American hegemony in particular helped provide public goods, open sea lanes, a stable financial system, collective security, and support for frameworks for resolving disputes.
Which you never thought to pay for, you took advantage of. And then when called to the carpet on it, tariffs implemented, you go running for China and you no longer have to be a friend of the United States. Listen, I can absolutely accept the fact that one could argue, and I have argued to varying degrees on this show, that the push for tariffs has been irrational, that you don't fix trade deficit issues with tariffs. It's simply the wrong approach. Canada now wants to make the claim that, yeah, it was great when they were taking care of us, but now they're not taking care of us. So, bye, Felicia. Okay. Let me know how that works. Tony Katz Today. Good to be here. Good to be with you. Find everything I do over at TonyKatz.com. We'll get into more of this because the words from Carney of Canada, the words of Macron, from France, these were some very, very, very harsh words. But they are just words. What they say and what they do, just like Trump, can be two very, very, very different things. Let us discuss what Trump said that matters most. The thing that made everybody there in Davos say, okay, it's not going to get as bad as we thought it would. It's just going to be a little bit weird, and it's all about making a deal, exactly as we said on this program.
We never asked for anything, and we never got anything. We probably won't get anything unless I decide to use excessive strength and force, where we would be, frankly, unstoppable. But I won't do that. Okay? Now everyone's saying, oh, good. That's probably the biggest statement I made, because people thought I would use force. I don't have to use force. I don't want to use force. I won't use force. All the United States is asking for is a place called Greenland, where we already had it as a trustee, but respectfully returned it back to Denmark not long ago after we defeated the Germans, the Japanese, the Italians, and others in World War II. We gave it back to them.
There was a lot of talk about, we gave it back. We shouldn't have. But that's what another president did. And well, they were wrong. No military action. The markets jumped up on that news. Markets jumped up on news that the president didn't do what the president wasn't going to do and hadn't done and showed no movement or motion of doing. It's unbelievable how people have responded and reacted here. It is also unbelievable, except totally predictable, to see how it is that people are discussing this subject. There was polling. I wonder if I have it. Oh, here it is. Over there at CNN, they decided to poll on the Greenland question. Why in the world would anybody listen to a poll on Greenland? Why would anybody think that it matters at all? But CNN, they're like, let's get this done. And they bring it over to Harry Enton, and they're like, Harry, how's Trump doing on Greenland?
Suggestion among some that one of the things the president is trying to do by focusing on Greenland is maybe to distract from other things. With us now, CNN chief data analyst Harry Enton. So,
the Epstein files, you mean? He's distracting from the Epstein files. That's always their answer. I want to see the Epstein files. I'd get rid of Pam Bondi. They absolutely dropped the ball on that. They fumbled the ball on that. They blanked themselves up, and now they're still suffering because they haven't got it together. We get it. If there was anything to show, it would have been leaked under the Biden administration. Let the files loose. Not the way that we already that they already voted on, where you let it loose, including victims' names. That's pretty gross. That's obscene. But what are you waiting for? Why does everything take so long? And why aren't you pushing back against their narrative? You either push back, it's like, here you go. Here it is. Have a nice day. But it won't stop the left from talking about the Epstein files. They're going to do it anyway, and that's what they did here. But check out these numbers.
how much are people focused on Greenland opposed to other things?
Yeah, okay. So this is the whole idea, John. The president of the United States didn't like the focus on the Epstein files. We're going to change the subject and we're going to go over to Greenland. And from that perspective, it's worked. Look at this. Google searches versus December. For the Epstein files, down through the floor, far fewer people are searching for the Epstein files, down 72%. Of course, you can't fall any lower than down being 100%. Versus for Greenland, look at this. The highest on record, up like a rocket, almost up 1,600%. My goodness gracious. So if the idea was to distract from the Epstein files and focus the American people on something else, it has been a success.
That wasn't the idea. Greenland is about Greenland and Epstein is about Epstein. But when you are in the media business, well, you might as well throw in a conspiracy theory, because Lord forbid we actually have an honest conversation in America regarding the safety and security of the nation.
By that metric.
But we don't know if that was the goal here. But if it was. Now, how is saying focus on Greenland opposed to the Epstein files in terms of focusing on an issue that's good for you?
Yeah, okay. So if this was the idea, right, well, it's a bad idea politically speaking. Why do I say that? Because take a look here. Trump's net approval rating on the Epstein files, look at that, just absolutely awful. 38 points below water. But any try to buy Greenland is somehow even more unpopular. Look at this. It's 40 points below water. There is barely an issue out there that's worse for Donald Trump than the Epstein files. But any attempts to buy Greenland or use military force on Greenland, which even polls worse than this, is one of them. It is arguably the most unpopular thing that Donald Trump can try to do is mess with Greenland.
Seems to me that the American people don't quite understand what it is that they're actually responding to. This doesn't tell me that buying Greenland is a bad idea. Buying Greenland is an absolutely excellent idea, a fine idea. The pseudo-intellectual wants to pretend it's not a good idea. That's why they're pseudo-intellectuals, and I have no intention of paying attention to them. Why don't they pay attention to our reality? And encroaching Russia and encroaching China. Greenland is closer to the United States than Greenland is to Denmark, and Greenland is part of the Danish territory. It is the United States that has protected the world order, including all of Europe, since World War II. And in order to ensure American safety, never mind European safety, you need the United States to have control of Greenland so China and Russia don't have control of Greenland. So we have over-the-horizon capabilities, and we can launch subs and other military craft with ease into the Arctic and thwart any attempt at European lives or American lives. Can I help you? I did that in less than 30 seconds. I did what CNN and MSNBC, Ms. Now, or whatever the hell they call themselves, and the New York Times and the Washington Post refused to do. I engaged a conversation that leftists won't even listen to because they don't know how to listen. What they want to do is be angry 24/7, 365. Trump wants it and must be bad. Trump said, don't take too many Tylenol when you're pregnant, and pregnant women started downing Tylenol like it was, I don't know what pregnant women take, but like one of those things. Pregnant women were downing Tylenol like suburban housewives were downing box wine. It was just nonstop. If they had a crazy straw in a funnel, they couldn't have downed more Tylenol when Trump said, hey, here's what some data is showing us. And the data, by the way, does show. We had Dr. Malone on this show discussing this very issue. Don't know what even they're talking about. You want me to believe polling that shows that buying Greenland is more unpopular than the handling of the Epstein files, when if I were to take a same poll of these same people and ask them to name for me 15 presidents of the United States, after 3, they would fall down and cry. With all due respect, Harry, I'm not debating your utilization of the number, meaning I don't debate that you came up with these numbers, that you have found these numbers. I am saying that your analysis of the number seems to be flawed. And it's flawed because we never asked the question, these people, do they understand what we're trying to do here? Do we understand the history and how Greenland there's been attempts to acquire it in the past? Neither here nor there. No military venture to get Greenland. So now we can stop talking about that, right? Can't we? There are things that won't poll well. Doesn't mean you don't do them. There are things that won't poll well with an electorate that might not understand the totality of the conversation. Doesn't mean you don't go forward. Tony, are you claiming that Americans are dumb? No. I'm not the left. I am claiming that without telling me how you explained the position to the subject that you are polling, don't ask me to buy into the numbers. And don't ask me to accept numbers if progressives were polled when they have shown themselves on subject after subject after subject to not be willing to engage the possibility at all. They have no mind to have an open mind. And when no open mind is had, no information can get through, and therefore no results will ever be properly explained. President Trump's trip to Davos was something else because he was unkind. You Europeans are doing it wrong. We're doing it great. You guys did this. You're not doing this right. There's a mass migration problem. You have an economic problem. You're not taking care of your own safety and security. Here I am bailing you out once again. You don't even say thanks. Like it was direct and it was rough. direct and rough. And I think that Trump gets in his own way sometimes, and is sometimes his own worst enemy. But his case for Greenland, we protected it once before. You guys have not put any money into its protection. We'll protect it once again, but we have to own it. His actual argument is we can't even lease it. You can't protect something you lease. You got to protect something you own. What do I think is coming? A deal that will partition part of Greenland and a couple of bases to the United States for a considerable fee, and I think a very worthwhile investment. The left wants to make this a story. Left will make anything a story as long as they can say Trump bad. We have to rely on rational people to say not such a bad idea. We have to engage a continual conversation about this in ways that are outside of CNN and the New York Times. There's nothing wrong with saying we want Greenland. And just like we discussed, a deal is going to get made for it. So what is everybody freaking out for? The polling doesn't matter. It doesn't. This polling won't affect the midterms. That thing that I just shared. Greenland, that might. I'll explain. Keep it here. I'm Tony Katz, and this is Tony Katz Today. Welcome back, Tony Katz. Tony Katz Today. I missed a bunch of comments. I was just scrolling through, and I'm happy to go through it, guys. Let's do this. First, on the Epstein files, I agree. Oh, in case we don't know each other, I'm Tony Katz. Hi, how are you? The Epstein files should be released. I've been saying so on this show since day one. When Trump said it doesn't matter, and you saw a lot of people saying, yeah, it doesn't matter. Why are we paying attention to this? Trump's right. We need to be focused on other things. I said they were wrong because they were. This matters greatly. We don't allow people to abuse children, and we don't allow them to stay in power no matter their last name. Absolutely. And yes, it was screwed up by Trump. It was a very rare miss on where the people were. And there were a lot of his supporters who wanted to go along with this. They were wrong, just wrong. Said so right here. I'm on the record. Do I look like a weatherman? Or does, oh, you mean Harry Enton? Okay. I've never been called a weatherman. Oh, hold on. Yeah, those comments are boring. So you're gone. Oh, gosh, wow, look at you. You can curse in a comment. online. You're so brave, and you're gone. I want to say for the record, not angry. Not, although I don't understand the emojis. Are those ducks? Are those chickens? Are those ducks? Is that some kind of fowl? I don't know what that is. Oh, it's a dodo, says producer Landon. Oh, I get it. All right, that's just funny right there. Oh, hey, look, more people cursing and gone. One of the things that came out of Davos and President Trump's conversations is that the Europeans decided that they were going to suspend the trade deal. And you say to me, they're going to do what now? They're going to suspend the trade deal. Tony Katz today. Good to be with you. I'm going to get to that in just a little bit. I spoke with Dr. Matt Will, economist at the University of Indianapolis, about this. How in the world, why in the world would Europe pull from something that is so beneficial to them, because they're the ones who wanted to make this deal? One of the things that is working is that China seems to be buying soybeans, which great news for our farmers. Certainly, it needs to keep up. China had made a deal with the United States to purchase 25 million metric tons of soybeans each year for 3 years. To date, in this year, they've fulfilled their initial commitment to buying 12 million metric tons of the soybeans. The argument has been that you've got tariffs that get implemented for things outside of trade. So, for example, a 25% tariff on any country that buys from Iran. Now, China buys from Iran. So you're there to try and help the Iranian people. And where are we with this? The Iranian people are protesting. The Iranian people are fighting back. And now all of a sudden, we've got radio silence. Trump said help is on its way. Where all I know is the IRGC, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, took to the streets and said, we will kill anybody who gets on the streets. So now these people are once again prisoners in their own homes. The Ayatollah is going to survive this? Is this what I'm hearing? This was the hottest story last week, and now we forget that it's happening? Help is on its way. The president said so. Where's the help? But if China now is hit with another 25% tariff, how do they afford the soybeans? That is a legitimate question. And I stated at the time, and still state, that these tariffs, like this on Iran, are meant to apply pressure, but really does not affect the regime at all. It doesn't affect the regime. It affects the people, because now it'll be harder and harder and harder to get goods in, and they already are having a hard enough time. You just need to help them get rid of the Ayatollah, help them get rid of the hardliners, help them get to a place where they're in control of their own destiny. So it is an interesting step that the Chinese are actually honoring an agreement. That doesn't happen all the time. It's a real issue if other tariffs do indeed create an issue. But then again, who knows if it'll actually get applied? I'm Tony Katz. With Trump, you never know if it's going to get applied. Now, let me give you a comment that is simply wrong. This is Trump is a 5-year-old and needs to remember that no means no. Trump is not a 5-year-old. Trump has an ego. Trump loves Trump. Trump is a narcissist, all those things. It's part of his methodology. You take a look at his successes, you take a look at failures, you take a look at the fact that he's president of the United States for a second term, and you realize, okay, it worked for him. I want to say for the record that no matter what your mother told you about dating, no does not mean no. We're talking about a negotiation in the world of business and in the world of geopolitics. That's very different than a girl who doesn't want to date you. In that case, no means no. Go find another girl guy. Go meet somebody else. The expression, there's a lot of fish in the sea, comes from this very thing. That girl's not interested in you. My father, rest his soul, used to say to me, like girls that like you, it's a lot easier. He was not wrong. He was not wrong. No doesn't mean no in a negotiation. You can go back. You can say, hey, what about this? Hey, what about that? Because sometimes the no doesn't actually mean no. The no is just a part of the negotiation. And it's Bill Burr, I believe the comic, who said, now, wait a second. When you say no means no, is it no? Or is it no? Which no is it? Oh, we're going to pretend we don't live in the real world amongst grown-ups and know that that's absolutely true? That's absolutely true. This isn't your dating life. This is geopolitics and America's safety and security. No doesn't always mean no. The first rule of Trumpism is Trump wins. The second rule of Trumpism is that a deal can always be made as long as it adheres to the first rule of Trumpism. And for all the leftists out there who refuse to use their minds, can we just get a hold of ourselves and recognize that the United States having control of Greenland is better for Europe? Which they know, and this is all posturing. But the left pretends that they've got this all wrapped up. They understand. It's embarrassing already. Embarrassing. Let me see. What other comments have I missed? Yes, Trump is not the first president who thinks this. Absolutely true, Mike. Other presidents in history have said this is strategic and important. We are not discussing, John, making Greenland a state. I also would oppose such a thing. We're discussing protection. So President Trump makes it look like it has to be owned. Whoever said it had to be the whole thing? That's constant and continual. Hold on. This is MAGA Destroyer. Veterans hate Trump. Unless your name is veteran, no, they don't. And goodbye. Right there. Hold on. Matt, I don't want to talk about what Tucker just said. Don't make me do that. All right, send me what Tucker just said. Why? Just a reminder that the fraud is everywhere. I caught this story over at News Nation, and it discussed how Maine, the state of Maine, has a building, an office building that houses 10 healthcare firms, and no one sees anybody. The landlords are reported as saying the only time we see people is once a month when they hand us a check for their rent. Did I say hello, Tony Katz, live streaming, youtube.com? There, just look for Tony Katz and be a part of it and get in the chat room. And you could see trolls on display like they're in the zoo, just gnashing of teeth and insane. And then you see the good people in the chat room, and they're fun, and you can hang out with them. One Portland office building houses 10 home healthcare businesses. It's half the building's tenants, and the landlord doesn't see them but once a month. I am happy that there have been charges brought in Minnesota regarding the fraud. I am mortified by the reality that this subject is no longer on the front page. Did the fraud suddenly go away? Is everything now safe and secure and finished and taken care of? No, 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 no. This fraud is nationwide. Now, maybe that takes a message away from some people who want to say, oh, look at those Somalis, all those terrible Somalis, all those awful Somalis. That would be people from Somalia. First, no one can deny that there have been a tremendous number of people from Somalia engaged in a whole lot of fraud. Second, no one can deny that it's very obvious that people have come to the United States from Somalia, settled in Minneapolis, in St. Paul, and have no interest in an American way of life and no interest in America. We have done a very poor job in our vetting of who we allow in the country. And it is also very obvious that that is impossible to say of the totality of people who have come to the United States from Somalia. It is acceptable to say, until we have a better system for allowing people in from Somalia, we cannot allow anybody else in from Somalia. There are nations and societies and cultures incompatible with Western civilization. And if you are not willing to engage the great melting pot that we are, well, then we'll find people who are. If you want everything about where you were from to be everything here, you should have just stayed where you were. But you came here and you have to do it our way. And we should be outrageously forceful about that because our way works. This is one of the hardest lessons the left has. They cannot come to grips with that. Our way works and their way doesn't. That's why they came here. When my grandparents escaped Poland in the 30s, the only reason they did so is because our way worked and their way didn't. Now, their way involved Hitler and dead Jews, but you get my point. Sometimes it's that extreme. Sometimes it's a different extreme. Maybe even less extreme. But our way works and your way doesn't. I'm not apologizing for that. You got to do it our way. I didn't say you couldn't keep culture with you. My mother still speaks Yiddish. I have been practicing. I'm not great at it. I'm not great at understanding every word. I am pretty good at understanding the tenor of the conversation. Like I know when the Yiddish is being directed at me. I know when I'm the one being yelled at. 10,000%. Speak Spanish, speak French, speak Tagalog. Have a style of dress and have a culture. Now, a style of dress is far different than whether or not you cover your face for a driver's license, because the answer there is no. Well, it's our religious practice. Yeah, don't care. It's a driver's license, and the driver's license says show your face. But moreover, never once believed, and I don't believe that the vast majority of people believe, that you should leave tenets of your history behind. But how we act here is how we act here. Now, how you act in your house, oh, it's a different thing. Oh, so people have to hide. I didn't say that either. I am fully aware that Italians came to the United States, and it certainly wasn't easy. It's never easy when any group, we want to talk about a group en masse coming to the United States. And they opened businesses and they interacted with people, and maybe they had a lifestyle at home that was different than the projection that their business was. In their business life, they engaged the business. This was true of Jews. This was true of a whole host of people. Maybe in their home life, things were different, a little more like the old country. I cannot tell you what goes on in people's houses right now. I can't even tell you if it's good, whether it was old country or people who were already in the United States. What I can tell you is how we interact with one another and the following of the rules and the laws. That has to be a standard, a cultural standard and a legal standard. If you want to change either one of those things, just because you're here and you think you could do so through domination or intimidation or force or violence, well, that has to be responded to with a greater amount of force that gets people to stop. But it must really be responded to by saying, okay, those people aren't serious about being Americans. No more of that. We have to come up with a new system before letting those people into the country. Italians didn't say you have to do it the Italian way. They said, we may do things here in this house the Italian way, but we pay our taxes. We don't game the system. The Irish, the Jews, the this, the that, in the main. Could there have been exceptions? There are always exceptions. It seems that in Minneapolis, it's a lot more than just an exception. That's what it looks like. That's what it feels like. That's what the reality is showing us. My point to you is, it's not just Minneapolis. This is happening in Maine. This is happening, as we know, in the state of Ohio, in Washington State, in California. Where is the reporting? What, did it get boring? We got to move on to the new sexy thing? All right, that's done. We've got enough clicks from that. Now we got to get clicks from something else because you got to keep the audience, what, on their toes? We have a problem. Why aren't we fixing the problem? Why is anybody in the DOJ not talking about this every single day? At what moment does Pam Bondi just get fired already? Oh, Tony, Trump knows what he's doing. With all due respect, I want results. And at the very least, we have place after place after place across the country where this fraud's happening. If I missed something on my tax return, the IRS will already have sent me a form and they'll start giving me penalties. Where are the charges? Where are the public questionings? Where are the arrests? Where is any move here within the confines of our laws? Because we clearly know the law is being broken. And where is our press to say, hey, this is still happening? And you say to me, Tony, it's the press. You can't rely on them. I didn't say, where's the press? I said, where's our press? Where the hell is everybody? Where's the latest? Oh, we're celebrating the citizen journalist. Where's the citizen journalist right now to give us the latest on what's going on? And why aren't we amplifying it? And as for the regular press, the old press, well, we should be asking why they want to safeguard these people, these fraudsters. This is not a subject relegated to just Somalians. This is not a subject just relegated to Minneapolis or to Minnesota. This is nationwide to the tune of billions of billions of billions of dollars. It's obvious. And we as a nation have managed to handle that and thrive. Can you imagine what can happen if we're not paying out billions and billions and billions of dollars in fraud all around the country? The debt we can pay off, the opportunities that we can create. Remember, for every $1 billion we're not paying to a fraudster, we can pay off the debt for nursing students. What? I picked something. Why not? We need nurses. We need nurses badly. Why in the world should we pay these fraudsters? Why don't we pay for the debt of nurses? And then we'll have nurses all over the place. And we'll say you got to serve for X number of years to order to have the debt paid off, but the money's going to go somewhere. That's better. We can just pay off our debt in general. We'd be better off. We'd be better off if we bought everybody an ice cream cone. I'm not talking about any kind of ice cream cone. I'm talking about a drumstick. In the great words of Shorzy, I'd have a stick. Then we'd be on to something. It was the biggest story anybody ever saw, and it disappeared. I don't think it should disappear. We have to be people who are at least on the weekly. Where are we with the fraud? Where are we with arrests? Where are we with these cases? Where are we with charges? And pressuring politicos to do something about it, not pose for a camera. You can't run a country like this. And we will remind ourselves that Doge was right from the beginning, and it needs to come back. I'm Tony Katz, and this is Tony Katz Today. Guys, welcome back. Tony Katz Today. I was just telling producer Landon we're coming back to the peoples. So been a whole bunch of comments. Some of them ridiculous. Some of them, at least, I think they mean to be rude, but there's a question within one or two of them. So yes. Culture and heritage are important parts of the country, but like you said, melting pot implies that you mesh together and find common ground and interests to build a defensible nation. If you don't believe in the Constitution, if you don't believe in Article 4, Section 4, that states that the federal government will provide to all of the people a republic form of government, and you believe, for example, in Sharia law governing your neighborhood or your town, well, then we don't have a common ground or a common interest. This is exactly the point. If you don't think that the nation should exist as the nation, if you think it's okay culturally to defraud the nation, if you think that somehow it is wrong for somebody to investigate you for breaking the law, if you think that engaging in fraud is something that should be allowed, well, then you're not finding common ground. As you've been here and as you've become a part of things and people get used to ideas and thoughts and say, this is interesting. Oh, this is an idea. I have no issue with that. Remember, it's we the people in order to form a more perfect union. Right? That's it. Now, as for Tucker said, what are the chances Iran would actually launch a nuclear attack? What he said in his newsletter was that is it really a bad idea if Iran gets a nuclear weapon? I mean, take a look at North Korea. It's clear that the Korean peninsula is more stabilized because North Korea has nuclear weapons. I don't know what I'm supposed to say to that. I don't know why we would think that that is a cogent argument. The reason that you have a stable Korean peninsula is a DMZ filled with landmines that keeps 25 million North Koreans from running across the border into the south for food. It isn't because North Korea has nuclear weapons. So is the argument that North Korea has nuclear weapons, so therefore, okay, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't engage in war action. You just have to keep the people in utter slavery and starvation? Weird. The story is that the NFL wants to go to an 18-game season. And Robert Kraft, the owner of the New England Patriots, said 18 games, get rid of a preseason game, so 2 preseason games, and every team playing once a year overseas. Tony Katz today, you understand, they think there's so much money in the international market, they don't know what to do with themselves. 18 games, then 2 preseason games, so 20 games, and then the playoffs. They have to start in August, and they're going to end maybe in the beginning of March. And then there's another question, which is 18 games, 2 preseason games. How many bye weeks? Right now, there's 1 bye week. You're adding 2 games. You already added 1. Now you're adding another, a total of 2. How many bye weeks? Are we going to give these guys any chance to recover? And in these this 18-week season, how many turnarounds of Sunday to Thursday? Because you like the Thursday night football because it's good money. Hey, I like watching Thursday night football. But can these bodies take it? You know, you take a look at all the injuries that we've seen. And Producer Landon, you're a sports guy. If you don't know, Producer Landon does a lot of calling of local sports and a lot of PA announcing and a lot of play-by-play work. Very big into racing. So as the F1 season comes, the IndyCar season comes, we're just months away from the Indianapolis 500, which I get to do the pre-race for on the track, and I absolutely love it. There's been a lot of Achilles injuries. There's been a lot of ACLs, right? A lot of these torn ligaments, a lot of these issues. I often argue, some people say the problem is the field, Tony. It's turf. I question whether or not these guys are trained too well. They're too strong. Their bodies can't keep up with it. And what's happening on the field mixed with the training leads to the ultimate, it leads to a destruction. The body can't keep up with what it is that they're able to do. Who's right? I don't know where, right? A doctor could tell me that I'm wrong about the physiology part. No, the body can handle these things. I don't 100% know. But what I do know is that football is a pretty physical game. And you're going to tell these guys to play 20 games and 1 bye week? Is the Players Association going to go for that? I don't think they would either, Landon. That's my point. So now we're stretching this thing out even further. And does everybody have a bye week at the same time? There's just a gap week in the NFL? No, they wouldn't do that. And what about television contracts? And now, forget television. Let's talk about the players. The players are going to say, you've added now a second game. You now want me flying across the globe. You're going to start seeing $500 million contracts. What you're going to start seeing. And the players, for the first time in my life, I'm in this place, the players are going to have an argument. They're going to have a legitimate argument. Look at what you want from us. Look at what it is you're expecting. You want more of this product on the field. When you take a look at top watched programming, it's all live sports. Because it is. Just proving that on demand is nice, but it doesn't work for everything. Sports is sports and live is live. Being a part of something is being a part of something. If you watched IU beat the University of Miami, after the game, you still saw it, but you didn't see it the right way. 18 games, 2 preseason. I don't know. All I know is that it seems to me the players are going to say, okay, more money, please. Oh, and a bye week. Otherwise, I don't know. I really don't know how they're going to go forward with a deal. I'm Tony Katz. That's my point. The training and intensity is higher. Have we questioned whether the body can handle it? That is the question. All right, so here's where we're at. We have got ourselves a commercial break for radio, so we will take the break right here. Let's make sure I'm not missing anything. So we will take the break right here. Smoke them if you got them. Kick back, relax. We'll be back in a few. Tell your friends to be a part of the live stream, and do not forget to get your tickets. So the tickets are still on sale. Oh, is Trump talking? Hold on a second. This just in right here. Boom.
Over there, you had a
Boom.
2-year window to do it. Now we have a 10-year window, which I hate to tell you because people will take their time. So in one way, I didn't want that. I call that not good, but it is good ultimately. Think of it, it gives me a chance to use it if and when I ever get out of this position. There's a big question. It gives me a chance to use it. Otherwise, I'd be precluded. That would be terrible, right? But it's 10 years, but you're able to, you build something, you build a factory, you write the whole thing off 1 year. Nobody's ever thought that was possible. It was always 38, sometimes 40, sometimes 41 years. You know, you get a little here, a little there, nothing. You write it all up. So it's been really amazing. And you are the people that made it happen. Really, largely it's you and a group of others. Not a lot more. I mean, the people here, I guess, because of Larry, the people that came to this event, it's really incredible. I wasn't sure how it was going to turn out. We had somebody, as you know, that ran it for many, many years, and I'm not sure what happened there, but I figured,
To answer your
that's
question,
all right. They had a
no,
hell of a
the
run
president's
in
not been
Davos.
gambling for 2 hours.
Then I
This
heard
is
Larry
a
was taking it
CEO
over, more
gathering
or less.
at the World Economic Forum.
He called me. He said, "Would you do me a favor? Would you be there?" And we've had some great business dealings together. And you know, he's great. He's one of you. He's one of the greats. And it was an honor. We had a good speech. We got great reviews. I can't believe it. We got good reviews in that speech. Usually they say he's a horrible dictator type person. I'm a dictator. But sometimes you need a dictator. But they didn't say that in this case. And no, it's common sense. It's
Did he
all
just
based
say
on common
sometimes you
sense.
need a
It's not
dictator?
conservative or liberal or anything else. It's mostly, I'd say 95% common
Oh,
sense. So
Lord.
that's what we have. So I just want to thank
Yes,
everybody
yes.
for being here. It's such an honor. And if we can ever help, you're going to let me know. And I have a pretty direct line. Marco Rubio's here too. He's done a fantastic job as Secretary of State. He'll go down as maybe the best Secretary of State if he keeps going like he's going. That's a big question. I don't know that he will, but for the first year, he's right. He's headed to the top. And I just want to thank everybody very much for being here. Thank you very much. Take care of yourselves. Thank you.
That covers a little more. Right, yeah. All right, so the show's in radio break, so we will take the radio break. And smoke them if you got them. And we'll be back in a little bit. Keep it here. Welcome back, everybody. Tony Katz. Tony Katz today. That is the name of the show. We'll soon hear from Dr. Matt Will, economist at the University of Indianapolis. I spoke to him earlier about how Europe decided to suspend the trade agreement because of Trump talking about Greenland. What a absolutely foolish thing for them to have done. I've got that story. And of course, I've got the latest on ICE and how the Canadians, if this is the game they want to play, well, they're more than welcome to give it a shot. I think it's a bad idea, but he's not listening to me, for sure. Coming back to the show in about 30 seconds. You know, we've got a radio show that connects, so I'm just getting some things ready and prepared for that. So that's what we do in this moment. So when you're the president of the United States, you're going to get asked a whole bunch of questions. It doesn't matter where you are. It doesn't matter what the subject is. When the opportunity comes to ask, the question will be asked. And in the case of President Trump, he's there in Davos for the World Economic Forum. And you guys know that he was late in arriving because the plane had a problem. Oh yeah, the plane had an issue, an electrical issue, about 45 minutes into the flight, and they had to turn around, bring it back, get on another plane, which is still Air Force One. Any plane the president's on is Air Force One. Me, I'm Tony Katz. The show is Tony Katz Today. And then they got there, and the president gave his speech. And while he is there, because why should anything be different than anywhere else? He was asked, of course, about ICE and what's going on and how it's going.
We took over a country with a border that was a disaster, where millions of people were coming in. Millions of people were coming in every single week. I mean, literally a week would have millions of people, and and they weren't vetted. Totally open border. You'd have people come in. You could look at them. I don't want to say why define that, because they always discriminate. So I don't discriminate. But you could look at some people and say they're criminals. And we took in tremendous numbers of murderers, drug dealers, mental institution, insane asylum people that were in insane asylum institutions for the mentally ill and dangerous, very dangerous. They dumped them into our country like we were dirt, and we're doing a great job of getting them out. But it's it takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, and it's a nasty business too. But if they were bad someplace else, they're going to be bad here. They killed people in their country, whether it was Venezuela or the Congo or any of the countries where they came. In the Congo, they emptied out their jails into our country. In Venezuela, they did the same thing. And in many other countries, they did the same thing. So when you read all these stories about ICE, you'll understand they're doing a hell of a job.
Oh, is that going to drive some people nuts? Those people being, of course, Democrats. Oh, sure, ICE is doing a hell of a job. Doing a hell of a job in terrorizing the citizens. There was this walkout that took place yesterday, and high schoolers participated. And in my local high school, not too far from me, they participated. 300 students walked out. And I make it a policy not to go after high school students. I think it's a good policy. I don't engage debate with them. I'm not here to respond to them. I think that sometimes people have a real hard time with saying they're children. You have to treat them differently. And it comes from the political left having this, it's not even a reverence for youth, it's an obsession that somehow the person who is 16 is smarter than the person who is 66. I mean, there are two sides to the bell curve. It could happen, but in the main, that's never the case. They're 16. They have no life experience, but they should be allowed to vote, and they should be allowed to get abortions, and they should be allowed to have procedures to engage in medical or physical castration and mutilation and claim they're a boy when they're a girl or a girl when they're a boy. Can they own a gun? Oh my gosh, a gun is so dangerous. Can they smoke? How dare you? Can they get a tattoo? Not without their parents' permission, but the abortion, anytime they want. Just walk right into abortions are us. Oh, don't look at me like I said anything wrong. These are the people who sing their abortions. Let's be clear about this obsession that the left has with youth. And the obsession is you have to indoctrinate young to get them to stick with you, because it's the Winston Churchill line. If you're under 40 and a conservative, you have no heart. If you're over 40 and a liberal, you have no brains. It's that line. They have this walkout. Oh, we're protesting ICE, and ICE is so terrible. I don't listen to policy from 16-year-olds. They don't know what they're saying. I didn't say they don't have feelings. I'm saying they don't know what they're saying. I don't focus on these kids who engaged a walkout. And let's start by saying they did not engage anything. They were supported in walking out by parents. You let your kid leave school to be a part of this. You sign them out of school, or do they just skip school? Because if they skip school, they have to deal with the consequences. They walked out of school, they have to deal with the consequences. You're a parent who signed them out of school. Oh, dang. That's something. Now, as a matter of course, hey, you're the parent, you're in charge of the kid. If you want to sign them out, you sign them out. Do you think it did the kids any good? This march was organized by the same people who did the Women's March. Isn't that Linda Sarsour? Isn't that the Women's March? That bigoted organization? This group, they notice they stopped doing it. They stopped doing the Women's March because it was run by the worst people, the most bigoted people, the most anti-American people. So just so we're clear, this is what you as a parent signed your child out to be a part of. You go to Women's March, their website, Our Feminist Future. 2025 was a year of marches that proved our collective strength, and the threats have grown, so we must too. This moment calls for escalated commitment from our movement. They don't want Immigrations and Customs Enforcement to be able to do their job. Now, to be clear, they're not saying, no, we just don't like the way they do their job. That's not what they're saying. They're saying that ICE should not be allowed to do the job. And we have more and more Democrats who are out there being very, very clear that they don't think ICE should exist. This is Representative Aguiar there with progressive Ted Lieu making this argument right here.
Doing enough. These reforms aren't enough. Their lawlessness has to stop. And they are only doing this because they can. They're only doing this because the President of the United States wants to use them to terrorize communities, to terrorize U.S. citizens, as the vice chair heard directly last week in Minneapolis, St. Paul, to scare people. There are kids throughout this nation who are not going to school because they're afraid. They're afraid that they're going to get picked up. They're afraid that their family member who is taking them to school will be picked up. That's just wrong. There aren't enough guardrails within this bill.
Before we go any further, why aren't the kids going to school? Why aren't the kids being driven to school? If the child is here illegally, I'm going to make an argument that it is someone who is also here illegally who brought the child with them. And if the people taking them to school are here illegally, well, shouldn't we do something about that? We must start with the basic. Do we have a standard or not? And what people like Pete Aguiar and Ted Lieu are saying is no. Standards are for others.
I can still appreciate the work that went into the bill while mentioning that common sense reforms that Democrats put up as amendments and alternatives were roundly rejected. They should not be allowed.
With all due respect, what do you have that's common sense if you don't believe that people who are here illegally should be deported? Baseline. Should people here illegally be deported? Yes or no? If the answer is anything but yes, you're not common sense. You should be dismissed. I can't engage with you. I don't have to pay attention to you. You gotta go. Should people here illegally be deported? Yes or no? The answer is yes. Should people who don't pay their taxes be arrested? Yes or no? Your answer is yes. You answered yes so quickly and then said, and they should have to pay more taxes. As a matter of fact, they shouldn't be allowed to own anything except what we, the government, issue them. Then you realize that you spoke a little too much truth. You're like, Trump bad, Trump bad, Trump orange, Trump bad, or whatever it is you would say. That's where we're at. That's what all the argument is. And if you ask yourself, why is it? Why is it that they are so opposed, so vehemently opposed to getting rid of all these people who are here illegally? And you can't deny that there aren't a lot of people who are here illegally. I mean, that's what Joe Biden let into the country. That's what Democrats like Pete Aguiar let into the country. This was a post from Ryan Godersky. And this post is kind of interesting. And certainly we can go about checking the veracity of the data. This is a map of the United States, and the map is in green and purple. The purple shows states that Americans moved from, and the green showed states that Americans moved to. So, if I take a look at this map, and I take a look at California, well, they moved out of California. That's purple. Oregon, they moved out of Oregon. Purple. Washington, they moved out of Washington. Purple. Vermont, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, New Jersey, Maryland, Pennsylvania, New York, they moved out of. All purple. Those are all, by and large, progressive states. There are some so-called conservative states on there. Mississippi's on there. Louisiana's a toss-up. Ohio, mostly conservative. Nebraska's on there. People moved out of these places. And where did they move to? Well, they moved to the rest of the country. Montana, Idaho, Wyoming, Nevada, Utah, Colorado, Arizona, Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Missouri, Indiana. By the way, did you know that the Hoosiers won the national championship against Miami? Just like saying that. Wisconsin, Kentucky, Tennessee, Alabama, Georgia, Florida, South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia. That won't last long. West Virginia, New Hampshire, and Maine. That's where people move to. When you take a look at the census and the purpose of the census to engage a count of who is in the country for apportionment's sake, it counts the bodies, not the citizens, which is a fundamental flaw. And you quickly learn that with the amount of people moving out of these places, illegal immigration is essential to these states that have declared themselves sanctuary states to be able to say, look at all the bodies we have. We get to keep all of our members of Congress. And they stem the bleeding of their horrific policies by paying off illegal immigrants with the tax dollars of the citizen and of those here lawfully. And this is why people like Pete Aguiar and Ted Lieu are so upset.
Allowed to detain U.S. citizens, and they are. They should not be able to fire at moving vehicles unless their life is in danger, and they are.
Yes, Like when Renee Good tried to run over an ICE agent. Too soon? She did what she did. Officer got hit. Another officer in a hospital. The video certainly doesn't show somebody listening to law enforcement. Remember, they don't actually care about the law enforcement part. They want to eliminate ICE. They want to eliminate this capability of getting people here illegally out of the country. That's what's going on. And so when you see that the Women's March is organizing protests that people allowed their children to be a part of, you think that the Women's March is having a conversation about this because they care about these poor illegal immigrants? No, they care about the destruction of Western civilization. I know this because people like Linda Sarsour are at the front of this type of movement and are the history of this movement. This is not a movement regarding immigration. This is a movement of progressives, of leftists and communists trying to indoctrinate your kids, and there are parents out there saying, absolutely, where do I sign them up? Parents are going to sign their kids out of school to take part in absolutely maddening and nonsensical protests that can't stop it. If any school was involved in aiding or abetting or supporting this, it's time to start firing teachers, administrators, principals, and superintendents. So take a look at your local school district and see how they acted. They work for you. Don't forget it. I'm Tony Katz, and this is Tony Katz Today. Welcome back. Tony Katz Today. Do I get into the conversation or the comments of Mark Carney? Is that what I should do right now? Just reading more about the Women's March and the people that allow their kids to connect with that is just horrifying. By the way, I don't know where this comment comes from, but a burrito does sound good right now. Producer Landon brought up Taco Bell. I don't, oh God. I am not anti-Taco Bell. I'm just pretty sure you don't know what a good burrito is. Which burrito is this? The grilled cheese burrito. Has anybody had the grilled cheese burrito from Taco Bell? What say you? Oh, maybe they will. Maybe the chat's going to be like, we're not even going to talk to you. Although I was doing some recording with Fingers Malloy from Eat, Drink, Smoke yesterday, and the idea came up, what if we did a podcast about nothing but sandwiches? That's what we do. We talk about sandwiches. We eat sandwiches. We review sandwiches. The whole thing is about, it's just nothing but sandwiches. I mean, it's already being done. It's got to be being done. But I love this idea. Right? All politics, all the time. It's just no way to live. Sandwiches, it's a way to live. So I was on Newsmax yesterday. I'm scheduled on Newsmax today, and there was a conversation about Pam Grier. Tony Katz today, the actress, Pam Grier. And Pam Grier was on The View. And Pam Grier made a statement that when she was a child in Ohio, her mother had to protect her from seeing things.
It wouldn't allow Black families to live on the base, so you had to live in an apartment, and you couldn't take a bus. You couldn't afford a car. You walked. Your dads walked to the base, and sometimes we would go from tree shade to get back to the apartment. My brother and I, my mom, with bags, and my mom would go, "Don't look, don't look, don't look," and she'd pull us away. Wow. Because there is someone hanging from a tree.
Now, that's horrifying. The issue is that according to the data, the last known lynching in Ohio was 1911, and this would have happened decades later. You're telling me that there were hangings, lynchings, and there was no reporting of it. That in her book, she never mentions it. Although she mentions sex a lot, including a relationship with the late Richard Pryor and other things. But she mentions cocaine a lot, but not seeing that. Outkick had that story. I thought it was interesting. I was on Newsmax and I was asked about this. I said, I don't know what I'm supposed to say about such a thing. I think my question is, at what moment does Pam Grier or Sonny Hostin or Whoopi Goldberg admit that things are better? Do I believe Pam Grier based on the data? No, I don't believe Pam Grier. But the question is, the chat room makes a point. If she's telling a story, she's telling a story that she never told it before, okay, but where's the conversation of, my God, things are better? Are things not better? Do we actually want to believe that America isn't better? I mean, if we want to talk about slavery, we should. Slavery is evil. We should talk about America's involvement in slavery. We should have the whole conversation of slavery. That there were white men in the United States that held black men as property, and those black men were sold by other black men as property, and those black men held other black men as property in African nations and in island nations. Slavery was the way of the world for a millennia, and in many parts of the world today still is. That's the totality of slavery. Pure evil. Evil. We're not going to discuss America getting better. It's always that we are this thing that was and is not connected to anybody of today. They were wrong. Even founding fathers were wrong. But we are not slaveholders today. At what moment do we start admitting that things are better? It's my question. The veracity of Pam Grier's story, I'll leave to others. At what moment is it so much better in America today? The answer is they never get to that. As I've often asked, how do you heal the racial divide when the wound is so profitable? Thought this was proof of that. Exactly when do we admit the country's better than it was and we've got a good ways to go? I'm Tony Katz. I don't think I'm off base in my conversation. Excuse me while I send out an email that is not very kind. Okay. Let's see. So I've got my conversation with the good Dr. Will. I'll bring that to you. I've got some stuff on Abigail Spanberger. I've got this right here. Got a bunch of stuff. Okay, we would do this, and then we would do this, and the video file would be. Wait, hold on. Boom. There it is. Good. All right. Good enough. Let's see if I can get that right. All right, guys, what else do we know? We do know that we need to be there on January 24th. Trump, 1 year later, there were people trying to buy tickets over the weekend, and for whatever reason, it was saying sales ended. Oh, I am not pleased at all with what happened there. So I'm keeping ticket sales open, and people have been like, you know what? I wasn't sure of my schedule. I wasn't sure of time, Christmas, everything else. I'm going. I'm in. Yeah, you are. The bourbon, the food, the band. It's going to be fantastic. People are going to be in the red tie. Now, I've been asked, hey, it's going to be cold. Do you have to still do red tie? Dude, be warm. Don't be crazy. Look good. Absolutely. Be warm. It matters. 100%. But you could do tux or gown. You could do cocktail attire. You could do a suit. Wear pants. Just a little something. But we're doing it as a red tie gala. I have got my red tie. Oh, yeah. Bow tie. They look good. And then we're going to look back at Trump's past year, the highs, the lows, and how we utilize that to win the midterms, how things have changed really past 20 days, 30 days. It's going to be nuts. Cannot wait to see you there. Yes, you can wear a kilt. You can totally wear a kilt. Tickets.tonykatz.com. I want to see you. I want to see you there. So get your tickets. Do that right now, immediately, if not sooner.
So statements from me will not add anything here. And when it comes to the Arctic, I think President Trump is right. Other leaders in NATO are right. We need to defend the Arctic. We know that the sea lanes are opening up. We know that China and Russia are increasingly active in the Arctic. There are 8 countries bordering on the Arctic. 7 are a member of NATO. That's Finland and Sweden and Norway and Denmark, Iceland, Canada, and the US. And there's only one country bordering on the Arctic outside NATO, and that's Russia. And I would argue there is a 9th country, which is China, which is increasingly active in the Arctic region. So President Trump and other leaders are right. We have to do more there. We have to protect the Arctic against Russian and Chinese influence. And that's exactly what NATO ambassadors decided to do in September. We are working on that, making sure that collectively will we defend the Arctic region.
That is Mark Rutte. That is the Secretary General of NATO. There is just no question that a deal is going to be struck and you are going to see Greenland become part of the United States in some part. And I love Georgia Maloney, who has been saying, you guys are getting all worked up. You want to get out of NATO? What next? We storm McDonald's? No McDonald's? What are we going to do? Because those people who are rational know that this is all just for show. A deal is going to be made. That's happening. And it's in Europe's best interest. Tony Katz. Tony Katz today. Good to be here. Good to be with you. What is nuts is that Europe suspended their trade agreement with the United States. Why would you do this? American markets were just thrilled that we're not going to go to war over Greenland. European markets are like, what the bloody heck is wrong with you? You worked out this trade deal, as economists have said, not a bad trade deal at all. And now you're going to blow it up? To prove what? You can stand up to Trump? And then, of course, there's the question of whether or not you actually did it, or whether or not you're just saying you're going to do it. I spoke with Dr. Matt Will, economist at the University of Indianapolis, about this to get an idea of what exactly the Europeans are doing. Talk to me about what this trade deal is and how the whole thing comes together. Europeans are stating that they are going to suspend the trade deal regarding the conversation about tariffs if we don't get Greenland. Walk me through the trade deal and what it is you're seeing.
So this trade deal was struck last year. You know, Trump started the trade war in April, and then he signed. I don't know if it was signed or if it was agreed to, but the details are all worked out. And there's the key elements of these deals were, for example, there was energy purchases, that the EU committed to buying a significant part of LNG from the United States, plus oil, plus nuclear fuels, and this is supposed to reduce their reliance on Russia. So that was probably the key part. Then Trump got what he usually gets. He got this $600 billion of new investment into the U.S. economy from European companies. He walks around saying, I got $1 billion here, $1 trillion there. They agreed to reduce the tariffs. He's got that cap. Everybody's got to pay at least 15%. Okay, so that was part of the deal. They had a 0 for 0 on aircrafts. So between Boeing and Airbus, there was a lot of good things. It was worked out. It was hammered. This was the art of the deal. This was quintessential Trump. He got the deal with Europe. I wasn't in favor of using the tariffs. I'm not in favor of the 15% tariff, but he got a deal. Everyone's happy. Now Europe is going to throw it in the trash. This is so bad for them to throw this deal in the trash simply because of a threat. You said it, a threat of 10 to 25%.
And so
you're throwing the deal in the trash.
Man, I have been harping on this and trying to make sure everybody's aware of this, that the argument made about the tariffs hasn't happened. It is the difference between the saying it and the doing it is the doing it. But the saying it has gotten just an outrageous reaction. Now, I'm not asking you where your position is on Greenland. Rather, I want to stick with what we're hearing about the economics, talking to Dr. Matt Will, economist at the University of Indianapolis. The conversation from President Trump has been, if you get in the way, if you aren't helpful in getting us, the United States, getting us in a place to secure Greenland, well, we are going to place a tariff on you. We're going to increase that tariff over time so you will do what it is we want. As a matter of economic policy, you like this plan?
Which part of it?
The threat. Just doesn't the saying of it engage a level of destabilization?
It's okay. So you're talking about the economics of the threat versus the economics of actually doing it.
We'll talk about both. First, the economics of the threat, and then what happens if we do it.
Well, the economics of the threat is self-imposed paranoia. It's Trump derangement syndrome. I mean, even Maloney, she was the one who said, "Stop overreacting to what Trump is saying." So the threat is how Trump acts. But still, to this day, 4 years of a presidency, a year plus into a presidency, they still don't understand how the guy works. He throws something crazy out there to the extreme, and she's trying to explain to the world, calm down, people. Calm down. He's just talking. So the threat is Trump derangement syndrome. They just don't know how to react to when he says something. The actual tariff, that's not good. It's not disastrous, okay? It's 10 to 25% on top of the 15 if the original deal sticks. But as we just discussed, they're going to throw it in the trash. So the threat is Trump derangement syndrome. The actual tariff would not be good because he's going to target specifically Denmark, Norway, Sweden, Germany, France, UK, and Finland, the ones who are really being the problem with Greenland.
See, and so, right, you're correct. I was going to correct you, but no, you're right. You're correct that that's the way they phrase it, or it's being phrased. They're the ones causing the problem. I make the argument, of course, that the Europeans know exactly how this is going to go down. They absolutely know it's going to happen. They know that the United States is going to get some part of Greenland, right? They're not negotiating for the whole island. They're negotiating for part of the island and then a place over here and a place over there and maybe a condo by the beach. And this is going to happen. And so they're playing to their own constituencies to show strength. What's happening with markets in Europe? As this happens, you see, hey, we're going to suspend the trade deal. And what was interesting at first blush, I immediately went to check the markets and they were up for all they were down yesterday. Like, the other day, like 800 some odd points. Markets at one point after this got announced, the suspension of the trade deal, were up over 450 was the Dow. The NASDAQ was over 250 up. So it doesn't seem like people are particularly upset about it. What are they saying in Europe?
Well, in Europe, they're negative. The DAX is down. That's the German index. The indexes in Europe are reacting negatively because this is going to hurt the European economy. Even though you and I know it's a tax and we will pay the tax, and all the new research shows that U.S. citizens pay the tax on a tariff, this is going to harm the European economy. Europe had a deal. They're throwing their own deal in the trash bin. This is bad for Europe. And so European markets are reacting. So they have the same problem we do. They have politicians who do dumb economic things. So throwing out the deal that we had. Oh, by the way, let me clarify this. The threat from Trump is not a good thing. We just talked about it. The threat is not good. The implementation would not be good. But Europe is shooting themselves in the foot. They're doing an even dumber thing because they're throwing out the old deal. That's what's hurting the European market as we speak this moment.
A better way to see it is we could see American markets going up because Trump, in the speech at Davos, ruled out military intervention.
Yes.
And markets in Europe going down because they just shot themselves in the foot, punched themselves in the face, or whatever it is you want to say there.
Why would I repeat what you just said? You said it exactly correct.
So what comes next? I agree with you about Georgia Maloney, and it's an argument I've made here. Everyone just calm down. A deal's going to get made. Is this another example of they say they're going to do something, but it hasn't been done yet? Or did the Europeans, are they actually doing it? Did they actually suspend the trade deal? And right now they're playing by the old rules that are not better for them.
Okay. The reason I love that question is, are they going to suspend the trade deal? They are playing Trump's game, but they're not as good as Trump at the game. They're making an outrageous threat, and they don't understand. They may be forced to follow through with the threat, and they're going to look in the mirror and think, "Oh crap, we can't follow through on our threat." So they're trying to play a game of chicken with the guy who's the best in the world at playing a game of chicken. But let me put on my hat. Okay, I grew up. My dad was career military. I'm an Air Force brat. I know a little bit about this world, and I can tell you that, in my opinion, I'm putting in my crystal ball. I'm going to do what I tell you I never do. Trump wants a huge military presence there. If they give him massive amounts of land to put up military bases, he'll be fine. I predict, because just from my historical knowledge, my experience in my life, that's what he wants. He just wants some forward deployment bases that are strategically located, that we have permanent access to. He doesn't want the whole country. I mean, he does. But I think that's going to be the middle ground. And Europe doesn't know how to negotiate. They are bad at negotiating.
That is Dr. Matt Will, economist at the University of Indianapolis. I appreciate you taking the time to be with us. More is coming up. I'm Tony Katz. This is Tony Katz Today. Much better. Welcome back, guys. Tony Katz. Tony Katz Today. Let me go to the comments right here. Are we going to the islands? Someone wants to be in Aruba. Somebody else wants to be in Turks and Caicos. Oh, here was the question. So after Greenland, do we make deals to take every autonomous country in the Caribbean? I don't think so. I don't think so. But I like the way you're thinking. Oh no, we're not talking about for military. I'm just talking about a condo. Just a place to put your toes in the sand. That's all. Let me see where we are. Right here. Let's see. Okay, excellent. Excellent, Smithers. Bring it back here. I was going to do some stuff about Carney, but I also have stuff about Abigail Spanberger. There's this. Now, I will get into this right here. I will get into this. Excellent, Smithers. Good. Our tickets almost. So the interesting thing about this event is that the space has the ability to expand, and this was a real shot in the dark. Doing it in downtown Indianapolis, doing it a more upscale event. It was a higher ticket price. I tried a bunch of things. Some things were really fascinating to people, and some things were prohibitive. Some things were like, I don't want to get dressed up, but I do want to go to an event. And some things like, I want to do the event, but I'm not so sure about the price. So it's been really interesting how this has come out. So the answer is we're doing well. I'm thrilled. We're going to have such an amazing event, but I have room because the room is able to expand. And it's been a kind of different crowd because not everybody who would normally come was like, maybe not this one, the next one. It's been interesting. Really interesting. I learned a lot. Love it. Love when people give me their feedback. So yeah, tickets.tonykatz.com. Long way of saying that. I just like the honesty. In Virginia, they elected Abigail Spanberger to be their governor. Why? Because Virginians are gluttons for punishment. You'll also learn how this ties into the shutdown. Tickets.tonykatz.com. Trump 1 year later. My event this Saturday in downtown Indianapolis. I want you to be there. You're going to have a great time. Somebody just asked, do we still have tickets? Because we're in the Hyatt Regency, I have the ability to expand the room. That's why I'm keeping ticket sales open, as people want to come in and we want to build out. We knew it was going to be a kind of unique event, and I'm looking forward to people last minute like, absolutely, I'm coming. I've done events. This is like number 4, number 5, all sold out. This one has been very unique, going great. I want to see you there because we can expand it out because we're not really limited to space in terms of, I had a basic idea of who would be coming and what would happen. So we have the ability to grow. Tickets.tonykatz.com. Get your tickets right now. And Abigail Spanberger ran as a moderate Democrat. I'm going to say that again. Moderate Democrat. That is what the kids call an oxymoron. Other kids call it BS. Some might just say cap. I don't know. I still haven't figured out the whole cap thing, but I'm working on it. Well, this is what a moderate Democrat does. Talk to me, Brett Baer of Fox News.
Governor of the Commonwealth of Virginia, Abigail Spanberger, ran for that office as a moderate. But the executive order that she talked about is state and local police not cooperating with ICE to get criminal illegal immigrants. There's also a list of, now the Democrats control the legislature, that a number of bills that have been put forward. You can't read it here, but let me just go through it. Sales tax on Uber Eats, Amazon, sales tax on admissions to a variety of businesses, create 2 new higher tax brackets, 10% tax bracket for anyone making over $1 million, 3.8 investment tax, raise the hotel tax, new personal property tax on landscaping equipment, ban gas-powered leaf blowers, guarantee illegal aliens free education, make it illegal to approach somebody at an abortion clinic, extend the time absentee ballots can be received after Election Day, allow people to cast their votes electronically through the internet, expand ranked choice voting, extend the deadline for ballot curing, redact the addresses of political candidates from FOIAs, add Virginia to the National Popular Vote Compact, make it illegal to hand count ballots, $500 sales tax on firearm suppressors, assault weapons and large capacity magazine ban, 11% sales tax on all firearms and ammunition, prohibit outdoor shooting of a firearm less than 5 acres, lower the criminal penalties for robbery, ban the arrest of illegal aliens in courthouses, remove mandatory minimum sentences, allow localities to install speed cameras, and replace Columbus Day with Indigenous Peoples Day.
Wow.
So elections have consequences, Josh.
Yes, they do, Brett. Yes, they do. There are 2 things to note from this story. Number 1, there is no such thing as a moderate Democrat. This does not exist. Listen, like a unicorn, maybe you could find one, but it doesn't exist. And Abigail Spanberger was a liar, and everybody knew it was a fraud and it was a lie, and they voted for her anyway. And of course, number 2, this ties into the conversation about redistricting, where Virginia wants to move forward on redistricting. where now Maryland, which said it wasn't going to, now wants to push to get rid of the only Republican they have in the House. Republicans better learn how to fight, because what they're dealing with isn't good. It isn't American. It's violent and it's dangerous and it is ridiculous. It is not good for anyone, and they do it anyway. That's how broken of a society. And to where I live, Indiana, that had the chance to redistrict and didn't, you got it wrong. It's a fight that you are a part of, whether you like it or not, for the nation. And you had a job to do. Well, if Trump didn't mention this, none of this would have happened. But here we are now. I'm not interested in the fantasy land. Well, this is beneath us, and we don't do this. Maryland said they weren't going to do it. Now they're doing it. Virginia's doing it. What's your plan? Still pretend that you have a morality? Is your position moral? A lawful process, a political process is such a problem? You're in a fight for your survival. I don't know what it is that I can say to convince you after that. Replace, maybe. I'm Tony Katz. These people were just wrong. Now, damn legislation is nuts, but so is MAGA. We need something new. I would rather say this, David, and I appreciate the comment, because I think there are people who would say, man, everybody's crazy. We need to be less crazy. We need to recognize that you can argue anything you want about Trump. Trump is an egomaniac. Trump is a narcissist. Trump is crazed. Trump is this. Go ahead. I'm tired of him. I'm tired of the ridiculousness. I don't know. He wants to name things after himself. It's all just nuts. I'll agree. Better than Joe Biden. So where we are at doesn't feel good. I am discussing how do we want to deal with where we are at and how do we want to progress forward. Trump is better for my children than Joe Biden or Kamala Harris or Abigail Spanberger. Fact. It's an objective fact, because in that scenario, there is a secure border, there is capitalism, and my children have a chance for a future. In Abigail Spanberger's Virginia, those things are now brought into question. It costs you more to exist. It costs you more to run a business. Therefore, it's harder to raise your children. It's harder to give them a better future. And you do not believe that people here illegally or people engaged in criminal activity should have to face any consequences. This is what she put forth. So, this isn't about Trump bad. This is about dealing with the reality. Now, how do we go about getting candidates who are, even in my view, more conservative? Trump's a populist. I know who the guy was when I voted for him. I voted for him 3 times. I don't want populism. I want conservatism. How do I go about getting there? How do I go about moving things forward? And my answer is this show, and engage rationally. A little bit of comedy and a cigar, but rationally. Starting with, here's the reality that I have. If Vance is the nominee in 28 and my choice is Vance or Gavin Newsom, there's no question. But if I could have Rubio as my nominee in 28, would I feel that that's a more conservative choice? Now, maybe you would disagree and you'd be like, no, this one, no, that one. But if I'm running against Newsom, now I'm in varying shades and degrees. Now, what happens if they were to pick a moderate Democrat? What would that even look like? I don't know, because I have seen this party and we have studied it now for so long. They won't. They can't. What will they do? They will tell us they did. They will share with us, well, that's really a moderate Democrat. That's what they did with Abigail Spanberger. You heard the list. 26 things I counted. Moderate. What they have told you is that you cannot believe them when they say words like moderate. Everything is a way to try and make it easier on suburban white women to vote for them and get others to come across. There are no moderates. It doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. Now, first, my name is Tony Katz, not clown. Get it right, son. Secondly, I'm voting for conservatives, but that's me. And I just said I would rather vote for a conservative than a populist. My point is that the Democratic Party won't put somebody forward who would be more to classical liberal. They lie about what they put forward because everything they put forward is progressive and communist. It's not my fault for noticing. I think it's their fault for doing it. This bother you? Because if it bothers you, I have to tell you that I don't actually care if my honesty bothers you. I can't. This is just the way it is. You're going to have to learn to live with that. I mean, you could always tune into somebody else's show. I mean, that's up to you. Hold on. This just in. Wait, no, not that. No, not leave Todd Young alone. The Republican Party is dead. Educate yourself more before opening a forum you're not worth listening to. Thanks for tuning in. And don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to smash that like button. Hit that subscribe. What do the kids say, Landon? Yeah, thank you. Thank you. That's great. The Republican Party is dead. Just terrific. Terrific and wonderful and great. Conservatism is not. I'm right here. Nothing in the past years, since 2016, Trump was going to destroy conservatism. No, conservatism is right here. Trump's a populist. But conservatism is right here. Just so we're clear. Not going anywhere. But go ahead. No, name call. That's good. That's good. That's gonna get me to your side. And yes, that's the point, introvert. They're all listening. They're all watching. Why do you think we're growing? The live stream is picking up little by little, right? The mobile live stream is doing very well, fascinating, and we're growing in subscribers left and right. I'm overjoyed, thrilled, and I appreciate you guys being here as well. Don't forget, tickets.tonykatz.com, tickets.tonykatz.com. Get your tickets right now. Get your tickets right now. Do that immediately. The bourbon, the food, it's going to be amazing. Tickets.tonykatz.com. Can't wait to see you there. Wait, that was this one. Good afternoon there, Pete. Conservatives are racist. That's not true, Skull the Wizard. I would think you were a dope if you were black or white. So, I just proved you wrong right there. Very easy. I appreciate you guys. The radio show continues over at WIBC.com. I am back tomorrow. The live stream will be here. Don't forget to subscribe. Can't thank you guys enough. Tomorrow, everybody. Take care.